The coffee hadn't even cooled when her palm cracked through the silence. Everyone in the cafe froze. And in that instant, Ava Williams sealed a fate she didn't yet understand. Before we start, comment below. Would you forgive someone who once humiliated you? Tap like and subscribe for more stories that touch the soul. It was a crisp Los Angeles morning, that golden kind of day when the air hums with ambition and the smell of espresso feels like success. Ava Williams thrived on mornings like these. She glided through the glass doors of Le Rave Cafe, her heels echoing against marble, her designer purse swinging with that effortless arrogance that only the privileged wear comfortably. Heads always turned when she entered. She liked it that way. Ava was everything the magazine celebrated: a socialite, investor, and fashion entrepreneur whose Instagram stories glittered with poolside brunches, brand endorsements, and diamond filter smiles. But beneath that perfect exterior lived a woman terrified of losing control, of not being seen as important. She placed her order, flashing her flawless smile at the barista, and moved to the counter to wait for her almond milk latte. Her phone buzzed with notifications, likes, comments, and one message from her fiancé, Ethan Cole, a wealthy real estate developer who believed charm could replace substance. Dinner tonight at the Peninsula. Wear that black dress I like. She smiled faintly. He didn't say please, and that suited her. Power attracted power. Then came the sound, the faint jingle of a cafe door and hurried footsteps. A man in a wrinkled gray shirt, carrying a tray of paper cups, stumbled as someone brushed past him. It all happened in a flash. Hot coffee, Ava's gasp, a brown stain blooming across her white silk blouse. The cafe went silent. The man's face turned pale. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry, ma'am," he stammered, reaching for napkins. "I didn't see. Don't touch me." Ava's voice sliced through the air. Her jaw tightened as whispers rippled through the crowd. She looked him over, messy hair, scuffed shoes, a small tear in his sleeve. "Do you have any idea how much this shirt costs?" I said I'm sorry," he murmured, backing away slightly. "It was an accident." Ava scoffed. "Of course it was. People like you always have accidents, don't you? Maybe next time. Look where you're going before ruining someone's morning." The barista froze mid-pour. The man bowed his head, visibly humiliated, clutching a crumpled napkin like a lifeline. He turned to leave quietly, but Ava wasn't done. "You can't just walk away," she said, stepping forward. "You think an apology is enough? You ruined my day." And before reason could catch up, before empathy could whisper in her ear, Ava slapped him. The sound was sharp and final. His head tilted slightly from the impact, but he didn't raise a hand. He didn't even flinch in anger. He just looked at her, eyes calm, voice low, and said, "One day, you'll remember this moment, Ms. Williams. I promise you." She blinked, stunned that he even knew her name. "Do you even know who I am?" she demanded. He smiled faintly. "I don't have to." And with that, he left, leaving the cafe in stunned silence and Ava standing in the middle, chest heaving, face flushed. Whispers followed. Phones recorded. Someone murmured, "Was that really necessary?" Ava turned to the counter, her hands trembling slightly as she pulled out her wallet. "Clean this up," she ordered the staff coldly, "and I'll take another latte." But the taste was bitter now. Outside, Liam Hayes walked toward his beat-up Honda Civic, the coffee still searing faintly against his hand. He looked down at his reflection in the car window, at the faint red mark on his cheek. He wasn't angry. Not really. He'd seen worse. But he felt something deeper, a promise forming quietly inside him. "Never again," he whispered to himself. "No one will ever look down on me again." Liam was an aerospace engineer by degree, but life hadn't been kind. His startup had collapsed 2 years prior after a major investor pulled out, and he'd been working small delivery jobs to keep his research alive. That coffee spill wasn't carelessness. It was exhaustion. And that slap, it wasn't just humiliation. It was fuel. Meanwhile, Ava posted a filtered selfie in her car 15 minutes later, captioned, "Some people just don't belong in classy spaces." Hashtag morning chows, hashtag UNBOTHE or ED dot double quotes. Thousands liked it. Only one person commented, anonymously, "Careful who you humiliate." Life circles back. She ignored it. That evening, as the city glowed beneath sunset, Ava met Ethan at the Peninsula Hotel. He was charming, loud, and all surface. They dined beneath chandeliers, sipping champagne as he discussed investors and luxury trips. Ava smiled, pretending to listen. Yet, in the back of her mind, she kept hearing that man's voice. "One day, you'll remember this." She shook it off, laughing louder. To drown the discomfort, 2 weeks later, a small headline appeared in a business journal. Ethan flipped through idly. Aviation tech startup Aeronova Labs secures government contract for next-gen jet design. He skimmed it without interest and tossed it aside. But had Ava looked closer, she might have seen a familiar name printed at the bottom of the article: founder and CEO, Liam Hayes. That night, as she scrolled through her curated perfection online, Ava couldn't shake the feeling that something small but irreversible had shifted. A story she thought was over was only just beginning. Have you ever misjudged someone before knowing their story? Comment below. Would you have reacted differently if you were Ava? 6 months passed since the cafe incident, and life for Ava Williams looked exactly the same from the outside. Glittering, curated, enviable. But the truth behind her Instagram-perfect smile was beginning to crumble. Her luxury fashion boutique, Ava Luxe, had quietly started losing investors. Her once loyal customers were shifting toward new, younger brands that promoted kindness and sustainability, words that made her roll her eyes, but kept her up at night. The world, it seemed, was tired of arrogance disguised as confidence. And Ethan, her fiancé, wasn't helping. "You've got to be more likable, babe," he said one evening as they dined in his glass-walled penthouse overlooking downtown Los Angeles. That whole coffee slap video still makes rounds on TikTok sometimes. "You look harsh." Ava tensed, setting down her fork. "That video was months ago. People forget." Ethan shrugged, swirling his wine. "The internet doesn't forget. Just manage your image, okay? Be softer. Investors like women who smile." Her jaw clenched. Softer. The word stung. She had fought her whole life to be taken seriously. And now the same man who loved her power wanted her to dim it down. "Maybe if you'd stand up for yourself for once," she muttered under her breath. "What was that?" he asked, smirking. "Nothing," she said quickly, sipping her champagne. But it wasn't nothing. It was the beginning of resentment. That night, while scrolling through her feed, she stumbled upon an article shared by a business influencer. The headline read, "Meet the underdog engineer revolutionizing private aviation, Liam Hayes of Aeronova Labs." Her eyes widened. That name again. She hesitated, thumb hovering before curiosity won. She tapped the link. The photo hit her like a shockwave. There he was, Liam Hayes, standing confidently in front of a sleek prototype jet, flanked by engineers and investors. His once tired eyes now carried quiet strength. He wore a suit that looked custom-tailored, his hair neat, his smile genuine. Ava's stomach twisted. She zoomed in, heart thudding, remembering the sting of her palm against his face, the look he gave her. That calm, chilling promise, "One day, you'll remember this." She slammed her laptop shut, as if the screen had burned her. But she couldn't stop thinking about it. Meanwhile, Liam's life had changed dramatically. After that humiliating day at the cafe, he had thrown himself into work. Every insult, every moment of embarrassment became a blueprint for motivation. He picked up freelance projects, coded flight simulations overnight, and cold-pitched his designs to aerospace backers. Rejection piled up until one investor finally saw what others didn't. Now, a year later, Aeronova Labs was gaining national traction. The startup's new jet engine prototype had broken efficiency records. Reporters called him the comeback story of the decade. But Liam hadn't forgotten the cafe or the slap, not out of vengeance, but as a reminder of how far he'd come. It wasn't her fault entirely. He told his colleague one afternoon. Some people just mirror their fear through cruelty. I should thank her. That moment made me sharper. His assistant laughed. You're too nice, boss. If that were me, I'd make sure she knew exactly who I'd become. Liam smiled. Maybe one day she will. Back in her apartment, Ava's world continued unraveling. Her boutique sales dropped another 20%. One of her investors pulled out, citing brand image issues. Her assistant left to join a competitor who valued empathy. Even the influencer circle she once ruled began whispering behind her back. At events, she felt their eyes follow her, judging, remembering the viral clip of her slap. It had resurfaced in a compilation titled Rich People Losing Their Temper each time someone laughed. Ava's chest tightened. One night, as she scrolled comments under her latest post, a message stopped her cold. What happened to the woman from that coffee video? I used to look up to her. She turned off her phone, tears welling. For the first time in years, she felt small, painfully, humanly small. Across the city, Liam watched a similar video, not out of spite, but as research for a conference on corporate humility and leadership. When her face appeared, red with anger, surrounded by gasps and whispers, he didn't feel triumph. He felt empathy. She's still trapped, he murmured quietly. Trapped in her own image. He thought about reaching out. Maybe send a message. Something kind, simple, maybe even offer to collaborate. But pride stopped him. Not anger, just the understanding that she needed to face herself first. Weeks later, Ava sat at a rooftop bar with Ethan and a few of his business partners. The men joked about money and women like they were stock tips. Ava smiled politely, feeling invisible. Ethan bragged about his new project, a luxury real estate development partnering with a jet manufacturer. We're signing with a rising star in aviation tech next month, he said proudly. Aeronova Labs, I think. Guy's a genius. Ava's glass nearly slipped from her hand. What did you say? Aeronova Labs, he repeated. The CEO's name's Liam something. Hayes, maybe. Why? She forced a smile, heart hammering. No reason, just. Sounds familiar. That night, she couldn't sleep. Every echo of laughter at that table felt heavier. Fate wasn't just circling back. It was landing, slowly, like a jet on final approach. In the mirror, Ava studied her reflection. The expensive makeup couldn't hide the fatigue in her eyes. The woman staring back at her looked hollow. All the fame, wealth, and pride that once filled her had drained away, replaced by a gnawing awareness that maybe, just maybe, the world she'd built was made of glass, and cracks were forming. She remembered his words. One day, you'll remember this. Now she understood. This was that day. If you were Ava, would you apologize or hide from your past mistake? Comment below. Sometimes facing the truth is harder than falling from grace. Share your thoughts in the comments. A full year had passed since that morning in La Rave Cafe. The city of Los Angeles pulsed with light as Ava Williams and Ethan Cole prepared for what was meant to be the grandest engagement of the season, a display of wealth, power, and exclusivity. For Ava, this wasn't just an engagement party. It was a rebranding, a chance to rewrite her image, to show the world that she was still the glamorous, untouchable woman people once admired. Her PR team called it a night of new beginnings. She called it redemption by luxury. The venue, a cliffside mansion in Malibu, overlooking the Pacific, its terrace wrapped in golden fairy lights. Guests arrived in black tie attire, stepping out of limousines and sleek sports cars. The press gathered beyond velvet ropes, snapping photos as Ava posed with perfect posture and her trademark icy smile. Miss Williams, how does it feel to finally settle down? You look stunning. Any message for your followers? Yes, she said smoothly. Believe in becoming your best self. Always. But inside, her stomach churned. Ethan was working the crowd, shaking hands, laughing too loudly, name-dropping billionaires. Every so often, his hand would settle on the small of her back, not lovingly, but possessively. She had begun to recognize the difference. "Smile more," he whispered once. Through his perfect teeth. She did. The string quartet played softly as servers floated through the crowd with champagne flutes. Guests mingled under the sunset, talking about mergers and stocks, about success and ambition, never about kindness or humility. Ava listened, half present, her mind miles away. Then she heard Ethan call from across the terrace. "Everyone, I have a special announcement before the toast." The crowd turned. Ethan raised his glass. "As you know, our company has just signed a historic partnership with the fastest growing aviation firm in America, Aeronova Labs. Their CEO will be joining us tonight to celebrate our future together." Ava froze. For a split second, the world seemed to tilt. The name rang like thunder in her chest. Aeronova Labs. Liam Hayes. Her lips parted slightly, but no sound came out. Ethan didn't notice. "He's flying in tonight," he continued, "so if you hear a jet overhead, that's not coincidence. That's success landing." Laughter rippled through the guests. Champagne glasses clinked. Ava's pulse pounded in her ears. She slipped away from the crowd, stepping to the edge of the terrace. The ocean below glittered under the evening sun. In the distance, she could already hear it, the faint, steady hum of engines. No, she thought. It can't be. Not him. The sound grew louder, deeper, filling the sky with an unmistakable presence. Heads turned. Cameras lifted. A sleek, silver private jet cut through the golden horizon, descending smoothly toward the private airstrip beside the estate. Gasps spread through the crowd. The jet glowed in the sunset, futuristic, elegant, powerful. The logo on its tail read Aeronova. Ava's throat went dry. Her mind flashed back. The cafe, the spilled coffee, the slap. His voice. "One day, you'll remember this." She was remembering every second of it. Minutes later, guests gathered near the entrance as the jet's passengers arrived. The first to emerge was a woman in a navy suit, Aeronova's public relations head. Cameras clicked. Then came Liam Hayes. He stepped onto the red carpet, rolled along the runway, wearing a tailored black suit and quiet confidence that silenced even the press. His eyes scanned the crowd briefly, then landed on Ava. For a heartbeat, she couldn't move. He looked exactly as she remembered, only different. Stronger, polished. The weary man she once slapped was gone. This Liam was everything she once claimed to admire. Confident, composed, unshakably self-assured. Their eyes met. He gave a faint, polite nod. Nothing more. No recognition. No anger. Just that same quiet steadiness that had once made her feel small. Ethan rushed forward, grinning. "Liam, my man! So glad you could make it." "Wouldn't miss it," Liam replied easily, shaking his hand. "It's an honor to be here." Ethan laughed. "Everyone, this is the genius behind Aeronova, the man making aviation history." Applause. Cheers. The crowd leaned in. Cameras flashed. Ava stood motionless near the champagne table, her heart in her throat. As Liam walked closer, greeting guests, shaking hands, she felt heat rise to her cheeks. She turned, pretending to admire the floral arrangements, but her trembling fingers betrayed her. "Everything okay, sweetheart?" Ethan asked, passing by with a grin. "Just lightheaded," she whispered. He chuckled. "Don't faint. You're the star tonight." But she wasn't. Not anymore. Later, as the sun disappeared and the party glowed beneath chandeliers and laughter, Ava found herself stealing glances across the room. Liam was calm, gracious, magnetic, everything Ethan wasn't. He wasn't chasing attention. He drew it naturally. At one point, their eyes met again from across the dance floor. She tried to smile. He simply inclined his head slightly, acknowledging her, not as the woman who'd slapped him, but as another guest. That, somehow, hurt more than anger ever could. During dinner, Ethan raised a toast to partnerships, prosperity, and the people who never settle for less. Laughter, glasses clinked. The air buzzed with champagne and pride. Then Liam spoke. "And to remembering that success means nothing without humility. The words hung in the air, gentle but sharp. Ethan clapped awkwardly, not catching the weight. Ava did. Every syllable felt like it was meant for her alone. She excused herself, heart racing, stepping outside to breathe. The ocean air bit at her skin, cool and salty. She pressed her palms against the balcony rail, whispering to herself, "This can't be real." Behind her, she heard footsteps. Slow, purposeful, beautiful view. Came Liam's voice, calm and familiar. Ava turned, eyes wide. For a long, quiet moment, they just stared at each other, the proud woman and the man she'd once called nobody. Neither spoke. The night wind filled the silence between them. "You remember me," he said softly. She swallowed hard. "How could I not?" He smiled faintly, not cruelly, but kindly. "Good. Then maybe this evening means something more than it looks." Then he nodded politely and walked back inside, leaving her breathless and trembling under the Malibu stars. If you were in Ava's place, face to face with someone you once wronged, what would you say first? The laughter, the music, the polished chatter, all of it blurred into a distant hum as Ava Williams stood motionless beneath the string lights. Her pulse pounded in her ears. Every muscle in her body screamed to leave, but her legs refused to move. Inside the mansion, the engagement party glittered with opulence, chandeliers reflecting champagne gold, guests waltzing on marble floors, and waiters weaving through with silver trays. But none of it mattered. All she could see was Liam Hayes, the man she had once slapped in public, now shaking hands with her fiancé like an equal. No, not equal, superior. He wasn't the tired man in wrinkled clothes anymore. There was strength in the way he stood, quiet authority in the way people leaned in when he spoke. He was commanding without trying, confident without arrogance, the exact opposite of who she used to be. And that contrast was burning her alive. She slipped into one of the side lounges, her trembling hands gripping the edge of a table. She stared at her reflection in the gold-framed mirror. Her eyes looked hollow. Her foundation cracked slightly near her cheekbone, the same cheek that had once reddened his. "What have I done?" she whispered under her breath. Outside, Liam mingled effortlessly with the guests. Cameras loved him. Executives respected him. Investors courted him. But as polished as his composure appeared, his mind wandered toward the balcony, toward her. He had recognized Ava the moment he stepped off that jet. He'd been warned she was Ethan's fiancée, but nothing prepared him for the flood of memory that hit him when he saw her standing there, trying to hide behind glamour. A younger version of him had imagined this moment 100 times, her begging, apologizing, humbled. But now, standing as the man he'd become, Liam didn't want revenge. He wanted peace. You see, success only matters if you remember who you were when no one believed in you, he said later to a group of investors, half speaking to himself. One of them laughed. "Wise words, Mr. Hayes. You've come a long way." He smiled, far enough to know that arrogance is a heavier burden than poverty. Meanwhile, Ava forced herself back into the main hall. Her smile returned, mechanical, practiced. Every laugh felt rehearsed, every breath stiff. Ethan, oblivious, was boasting again. "This partnership will redefine luxury travel," he told the guests. "Imagine our high-end clients arriving on Liam's jets. It's the perfect synergy. Wealth meets innovation." Ava's skin crawled. Liam raised his glass with a polite nod. "To new beginnings," he said, voice calm. But when his gaze met Ava's, there was something deeper in his eyes, something she couldn't decipher. Not pride, not resentment, something more unsettling. Forgiveness. And it broke her. Later that night, Ava found herself outside again, drawn toward the hum of the engines still cooling on the runway. The moonlight washed over the silver jet, its metal gleaming like quiet revenge. Liam was standing there, hands in his pockets, looking out toward the ocean. She hesitated before stepping closer. "Liam," she said softly. He turned, expression unreadable. Ava, the way he said her name, calm, level, made her throat tighten. "I didn't expect." She began, voice faltering. any of this. He smiled faintly. Neither did I, but life has a strange sense of humor, doesn't it? She looked down. I suppose it does. There was a long pause, the kind filled with all the words neither could yet say. Finally, she whispered, "You remember that day?" "Of course," he said simply. "Some lessons don't fade easily." Her eyes filled with shame. "I was awful to you." "Yes," he said. "Not cruelly, just truthfully. You were." She swallowed hard. "I don't even know why. I thought I was protecting something. My image, my pride. But all I did was prove how small I was." He studied her quietly. "Do you really want to know what I remember most from that day?" She nodded weakly. He smiled gently. "It wasn't the slap. It was the look in your eyes after. For a second, I saw regret. Even then, that told me there was something worth saving inside you." Her eyes glistened. "Why would you say that? Why not just hate me?" "Because hate wastes energy," he said softly. "I used that day to build myself, not destroy someone else." A tear slid down her cheek. "I'm sorry." He nodded once. "I know." They stood in silence, the ocean wind brushing against them. The jet loomed behind like a monument to destiny, sleek, silent, and impossibly poetic. Finally, Liam said, "Do you love him?" The question hit her harder than any slap could. "I thought I did," she admitted. "But I think I love what he represented. Safety, validation, status. The same things that made me hurt you." Liam's eyes softened. "Then maybe this isn't about me anymore." "What do you mean?" "It's about you choosing who you really are when no one's watching." From the mansion, Ethan's voice echoed faintly, calling her name. The party was still going. The music, the laughter, the champagne, all of it waiting. But Ava didn't move. For the first time, she didn't care who was watching. She looked at Liam and whispered, "You deserved better from me." He smiled, his expression filled with quiet kindness. "Maybe, but I wouldn't be who I am without what happened. So, in a strange way, thank you." Her tears fell freely now. "You're too good for this world." He chuckled softly. "No, I just learned the hard way that success doesn't fix pain. Forgiveness does." He glanced at his watch. "I have to go. The jet leaves in 15. Ava nodded, wiping her tears. "Goodbye, Liam." He took a step closer, hesitated, then gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "Goodbye, Ava. I hope you find peace." Not approval. Then he turned and walked toward the jet. She watched him climb the steps, every footfall echoing like closure. The engine started, roaring softly against the waves. And as the plane lifted into the dark sky, Ava whispered to herself, "Maybe it's time I finally land." Have you ever been forgiven by someone you didn't deserve forgiveness from? Tell us in the comments. True forgiveness can change more than an apology ever could. The night after the engagement party, Ava Williams couldn't sleep. Her bed felt colder, her thoughts louder. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Liam Hayes, not as the man she'd humiliated, but as the man who had risen above her cruelty with grace. His calm voice echoed in her mind. Success doesn't fix pain. Forgiveness does. She lay awake until sunrise, staring at the faint Malibu light creeping across the walls. By morning, her pillow was damp with tears she hadn't meant to cry. Ethan was already in the kitchen when she walked down, crisp suit, coffee in hand, phone glued to his ear. "Yeah, the Aranova deal went perfectly," he said, grinning. "That Hayes guy's the real deal. Press is going crazy for it." He ended the call, turning to her. "Morning, sweetheart. You look tired." Ava ignored the jab and poured herself a glass of water. "We need to talk." He raised an eyebrow. "About what?" "About us," Ethan sighed. "Not this again." "Ava, everything's fine. We're engaged. The company's booming. Stop pretending." She cut in, her voice trembling but firm. "We don't love each other. We love what this looks like." He stared at her, amused. "You're being dramatic. You're just emotional from the party." "I'm not emotional," she said, her voice rising. "I'm finally clear." He chuckled, setting down his mug. "Clear about what?" "You're not walking away from this. Ava, you've worked too hard for this life. She looked him dead in the eye. Then maybe it's time I start working for a different one. Ethan's expression shifted, amusement fading into anger. You're serious? Yes, she said quietly. I don't want to be the woman who measures her worth by who she's standing next to. I've done that too long, he scoffed. And what brought on this enlightenment? Don't tell me it's that jet guy. She looked away. Oh, unbelievable, Ethan snapped. You're suddenly playing saint because some poor boy you embarrassed got lucky? Don't forget who made you relevant again. Ava's heart pounded. But this time, she didn't shrink. You didn't make me anything, Ethan. You just taught me what it feels like to sell your soul for applause. His jaw tightened. You'll regret this. She nodded slowly. Maybe, but at least the regret will be mine. She walked past him, calm, poised, done pretending. For the first time in years, her steps felt steady, grounded. Behind her, she heard Ethan mutter curses, his pride stinging louder than his heart. That afternoon, she drove to downtown Los Angeles, to the same cafe, La Rave Cafe. The place hadn't changed. Same marble floors, same espresso scent, same hum of conversation. But she had changed. She ordered quietly and sat by the window, staring at the empty seat where Liam had once stood. Her fingers trembled slightly as she whispered, I'm sorry. Liam, she didn't expect him to hear, but saying it aloud mattered. A soft voice interrupted her thoughts. You're in my favorite spot. She looked up and froze. Liam stood there, smiling faintly, a paper cup in hand. Her mouth opened, but no words came. I didn't mean to startle you, he said, setting his cup down. Old habits. I always sit by the window to think. She blinked, speechless. You still come here? He chuckled. Every now and then. Life has a sense of humor, remember? For a long moment, they just looked at each other, the air between them filled with unspoken history. I was hoping I'd see you again, she admitted softly. Not because I deserve it, but because I needed to say something. He nodded. Then say it. Ava inhaled deeply, her voice trembling. I was cruel to you. Not just that day. For years, I was cruel to everyone who didn't fit my perfect world. I thought power made me better, but I was just scared. Scared of being ordinary. Liam listened quietly, eyes steady. I've lost things since then, she continued. My investors, my friends, my reputation. But losing them made me realize something. The worst poverty isn't financial. It's moral. Tears welled in her eyes. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted to tell you that I see you now. The man I slapped deserved respect long before he earned success. Liam exhaled slowly. Ava, look at me. She did. He smiled gently. I forgave you the moment I decided to move on. I couldn't build my life carrying hate. But I'm glad you found your peace too. Ava wiped her tears, trying to smile. I'm still finding it. That's the only way it works, he said. They sat together in silence for a while. Two people who once represented the worst in each other, now finding quiet redemption in the same place. It all began. Liam finally spoke. What will you do now? I don't know, she said honestly. But for the first time, I'm okay with not knowing. I think I'll start by helping people who don't get second chances as easily as I did. He nodded approvingly. Then you've already begun. When she stood to leave, he offered his hand. Good luck, Ava. She smiled softly, shaking it. You too, Liam. And thank you for being better than I was. He chuckled. You were just human. So was I. She turned to go, then paused. Liam, if life ever brings us together again, maybe we can start from the beginning. He tilted his head. Without the coffee spill? She laughed through her tears. Exactly. Outside, the sun painted the city gold. Ava walked down the familiar street, each step lighter than the last. For once, she didn't look for validation in the reflection of passing windows. She just walked, free. Inside, Liam watched her go, sipping his coffee. There was no bitterness left in him, only respect. He whispered to himself, smiling, she's going to be okay. Have you ever had to face someone you wronged, or who wronged you? Would you forgive them if life gave you another chance? Drop your thoughts in the comments. 6 months later, Ava Williams stood in front of a crowd again. But this time, there were no diamonds, no flashing cameras, no designer gowns. The banner behind her read, Hope Skies Foundation, Aviation for Change. Her voice trembled slightly as she spoke into the microphone. 6 months ago, I thought I had everything. Now, I know that everything means nothing without purpose. The audience, a mix of volunteers, students, and donors, listened with quiet admiration. Behind her stood a model of a small humanitarian aircraft designed to deliver supplies to rural communities, the very first of its kind. And beside her name on the foundation's brochure was another, Liam Hayes, co-founder and CEO, Aeronova. When the speech ended, the applause was gentle but sincere. Ava stepped off the stage, heart full, spirit light. She'd spent months working with Liam's company to develop this program, using aviation to support disaster zones and impoverished towns. She didn't just write checks or pose for photos. She worked, she learned logistics, she helped coordinate flights, she met families whose lives would be changed. And somewhere in that process, the old Ava faded completely. She was no longer the woman obsessed with appearances. She was someone new, grounded, grateful, human. After the event, as the crowd dispersed, she walked toward the airstrip nearby. The late afternoon sun painted everything in gold, the runway shimmering like molten glass. She could hear the faint hum of jet engines in the distance. And then, the familiar sound, smooth, powerful, commanding, as a private jet descended gracefully onto the strip. Her heart fluttered, not out of vanity or nerves, but something gentler, peace. The jet's door opened, and Liam stepped out, wearing a crisp white shirt and that same quiet confidence that had once silenced an entire party. He walked toward her with an easy smile. "You did well today," she smiled back. "We did well," he chuckled. "You know, I never thought I'd see you give a speech about humility." She laughed softly. "Neither did I, but life's funny like that." They stood together, watching volunteers load supplies into a smaller plane, medicine, food, books. Ava glanced at him. "You were right. You know, forgiveness really does fix more than success ever could." He looked at her thoughtfully. "And humility takes more strength than arrogance ever will." For a moment, they were silent, to people who had hurt and healed. Now standing side by side under the same sky. Liam finally said, "You've changed, Ava." She turned to him, the wind brushing her hair across her face. "I had to. I couldn't live in that mirror anymore." He smiled. "I know that mirror. I used to stare into it too, the one that lies to you until you don't recognize yourself." She nodded slowly. "I think I broke it for good." As the sun dipped lower, she watched a child, one of the foundation's beneficiaries, wave at the plane taking off. The child's joy was pure, unfiltered. Ava's voice softened. "You ever think about how small moments can change everything?" Liam looked at her curiously. "That day at the cafe," she continued, "when I slapped you, I destroyed something inside myself. But when you forgave me, you gave it back. Not instantly, but piece by piece." Liam's gaze warmed. "Maybe we both needed that day. You to lose your reflection, and me to find mine." They walked along the tarmac, slow and unhurried. "So," she said, glancing sideways, "what's next for Aeronova?" He smiled faintly. "Expansion, humanitarian contracts, maybe a few commercial partnerships. But honestly, I'm more interested in what's next for you." She laughed. "For me, I'm learning to live quietly. Maybe teach young women about self-worth. Maybe travel, not in luxury, but in purpose." He nodded approvingly. "Sounds like a life worth living." Then, after a pause, he added softly, "You know, the foundation needs someone to help with outreach in the new Seattle branch. It's a lot of travel, long hours, constant change. Not glamorous, but meaningful." She smiled knowingly. "Is that an offer, Mr. Hayes?" He grinned. "Maybe." Her heart swelled with warmth she hadn't felt in years. "Then maybe I'll take it." As the sky blushed pink and gold, The last plane of the day took off, soaring upward in a perfect arc. Ava and Liam stood together, watching its climb. She turned to him, eyes glistening. Funny, isn't it? I spent my life trying to rise above people, and now I feel higher than ever, just by standing beside someone I once looked down on. He chuckled gently. That's the beauty of altitude. It's not about height, it's about perspective. They shared a quiet laugh, one that came not from irony, but peace. Liam took a step closer. Ava, if you ever want to try that coffee thing again, no slaps, no designer handbags, just two people talking, I think I'd like that. She smiled through tears. I think I'd like that too. He extended his hand. Deal, deal, as the evening breeze swirled around them. Ava looked toward the horizon, the same horizon she once thought she had to conquer. Now, it simply felt like home. The air smelled of jet fuel and salt, a strange mix of progress and peace. She closed her eyes and whispered, "Thank you, life, for bringing me back to earth." When she opened them, Liam was watching her, that same soft smile, the one that once carried pain, but now held understanding. He said quietly, "You found yourself, Ava." She nodded. "No," she replied, voice steady. "I finally stopped losing myself," as the jet engines rumbled one last time. Liam and Ava walked side by side toward the hangar, two souls who had traveled through pride, pain, forgiveness, and finally, purpose. Behind them, the banner flapped gently in the wind. Hope skies, where second chances take flight. Would you forgive someone who once humiliated you if they truly changed? Tell us in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this story if you believe in redemption and second chances.